Hello, my name is Rebecca Fannin. I'm the founder and author of Silicon Dragon. We're here with Finian Tan. He is a venture capitalist, entrepreneur, and the founder and current chairman of Vickers Venture Partners, an international VC firm with a presence in Singapore, Shanghai, New York, Hong Kong, Silicon Valley, and San Francisco. Before he started Vickers, he was managing director and head of the Credit Suisse First Boston's group of banks in Singapore and Malaysia. And prior to that, he was founding partner and managing director of Silicon Valley venture capital firm Draper Fisher Jurvetson, ePlanet for Asia, where he made a very famous investment in Chinese tech giant Baidu. Prior to this, in 1997, Dr. Tan served as Deputy Secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Industry for the Singapore government. Hello, Finian. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you, Rebecca.
Very good. So today we're going to be talking about developments in clean tech, biotech, energy, and other emerging sectors that matter a lot as they unfold rapidly around the globe. And so, Finian, you are one of the leaders in chasing these kind of opportunities and staying ahead of the curve. And so you're doing this not just for a financial gain, but for a bigger purpose, right?
Yes, our motto is funding a better world. So one of our criteria is impact.
Okay. So what is the most important ingredient you look for when you make a new investment? Is it the person? Is it the team? Is it the business model? What is it that makes you want to go ahead and do an investment?
I think the first thing is the technology. It needs to be of a breakthrough nature because since we are deep tech venture capitalists, we don't really invest, in Web 3.0 or cryptos or blockchain very much. We generally invest in things that have a dying need, and a breakthrough technology allows that need to be met. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the stage at which we invest, because deep tech investing can be very long term. And so you need to pick the point of entry very carefully. And so we have a bit of a Goldilocks zone. If it's still a dream, it's too risky. If it's already ubiquitous, then it's probably too expensive. So our sweet spot is around 100 million valuation or thereabouts. We invest about 10 million, and generally they would have already achieved proof of concept.
Okay. And what are the markets that you invest in geographically?
Deep technology is not just an idea from a garage. It's typically deep R&D over a long-term period. And that requires an ecosystem. And generally, the developed countries are more ready for such R&D and for such discoveries. So I would say the US, Europe, Singapore, Japan, Korea are generally the places where deep technologies come from.
Okay, so why are you investing in deep tech? What is it about deep tech that is so intriguing?
We used to be a generalist VC, investing in, logistics, e-commerce, social networks, and we found that we were better at deep technology. Why?
I see.
Mainly because we're a bunch of people with advanced degrees and PhDs, and many of us taught in universities, etc. And so we are true techies in that sense. We live and breathe tech. We don't necessarily understand the markets so well. So predicting the next TikTok or Instagram, I don't think we have any crystal ball that allows us to do that better. But trying to decipher whether a technology will or will not work, that's our bread and butter. So I think that's the first thing. And secondly, we found that indeed technology fulfills many of our own personal dreams, which is wanting to make a better world. So when you combine the two, it was obvious that that's what we should do. So 2 funds ago, we became a deep technology VC, and now we're very happy doing it. It's a very uncharted territory. Not many VCs do what we do. Most VCs have very similar portfolios. They would have a game company, e-commerce company, a social network, Uber want to be, or Airbnb want to be, and then maybe one deep technology company. For us, it's just the last. That's all we do.
Okay. And how can the returns compare in this kind of sector, in this deep tech sector, compared to some of these other categories you just mentioned, like e-commerce or gaming or these other more generalist type of fields?
Actually, if you think about it, venture capital started as a deep tech business. It's only the internet that changed it into a commercial business, and MBAs and generalists started to come into the fray. But in the past, VCs were all engineers, mainly, because it started in the 50s with the semiconductor age. And then it went into the PC revolution, and then it went into the internet, and now it's very general. It's guessing where the next fashionable, hot app is going to come from. So I think in terms of returns, VC is basically the riskiest end of the spectrum. And the business model is that, you have a few failures and you have many failures and you have a few hits, but the hits are so large that they cover the losses. So you can have that in tech, you can have that in generalist VC. So the business model is roughly the same. The difference is the risks. There are 3 types of risks. There is IP risk, there is technology risks, and there is market risk. So IP risk is, can you protect the IP? Technology risk, does it work? And market risk, will people buy? Most VCs, generalist VCs, take any and all risks, any combination. We try to limit our risk to the tech end. So we hardly take market risk to the same extent. So let me give you some examples. If you have a game company, there is no tech risk because the game works. The monkey jumps, it catches the ball. It works. There's no tech risk. The IP risk, well, you developed it. It's a software code. Nobody can copy it. People can copy the functions, but they cannot hack into your system and take over your monkey jumping up and catching the ball. What you are risking really is, will people like the game? And you hope you have a crystal ball and guess whether people will like it. And if people do, you made it big. For us, it's different. It's like a cure for cancer. The market is there. It's known. Just go to WHO.com and you will know what's the prevalence, what's the mortality, what's the morbidity. You will find out everything you need about that. The solution is there. So what risk do we take? It's a tech risk. Does the drug work? Will it pass clinical trials? And that's all. There is no crystal ball gazing here. We need to ascertain whether we believe in the science. So we are on a completely different end of the spectrum. If it works, there are some regulatory risks, of course, but if it works, you are far and away the leader, and it's a monopoly for a while. Because you already know people in clinical trials, phase 3, phase 2, phase 1, and there are none of them there. You're the only one. And if you can cure, pancreatic cancer, then, you're 1,000 times larger than you were before. And you are in the realm of $100 billion. So the hits will surely cover the losses. And if you spread your bets, you diversify. And if you are good at ascertaining whether the science makes sense, then you probably have a very good fund.
Okay, that's great. What are some of the lessons you've learned in using that strategy?
We, as a VC, you have so many failures that you have lessons all the time. But, when you fail, you only lose 1x. But when you win 100x. So actually, the lessons don't come so much from the failures. It comes more from the misses. Because when you miss 100x, that's such a pity. So as a result, VCs have this slightly FOMO attitude, fear of missing out.
Right.
Because the worst thing that they can have is a huge miss that they allowed to pass through their fingers for whatever reason. So we always try to ensure that we go through it very, very carefully and we make very good decisions. So the filter process is very important. VCs need 3 parts to their game. They need to know where to fish, how to fish. They need to have a good net that catches the right type of fish. And thirdly, once they catch the fish, they must grow the fish well and quickly. So you need to do 3 things right. And if you find that your deal flow is not good enough, hire more people, open more offices. If your filter is not good enough, you lack gray matter perhaps, or you lack experience. So you try to get IC members who are better at this or better at that. If you don't know how to help companies grow, maybe you lack experience, maybe you lack gravitas, maybe your approach to persuade the companies are not good enough, so you try to improve on that or this. But generally, you need to be good at 3 parts of the game.
All right, good. So in the current economic climate, how are you finding the deal making for these kinds of early stage and deep tech kinds of deals? How are the valuations? What's the competition like? What are you seeing? Because I'm hearing there's quite a few down rounds these days. Are you seeing that?
Oh, for sure. The VC world is not immune to the current crisis. The world is not a happy place. It's got many problems. It's got an energy crisis. It's got supply chain disruptions. It's got inflation. It's got rising interest rates. So we need to stabilize all these before I think markets will start to correct itself and pick up again. The closer you are to the late stage of, about to IPO your company or list it, the harder it is felt. The earlier you are, the less you feel it, because you can't go cheaper than, $5 million or $3 million valuation when you're a startup. Otherwise, the entrepreneurs just will not own enough of the company. And the amount they need is always a few million. So they give up 30-40% of the company, and you can't really change that. Anything worse than that, and you lose the alignment of interest with the entrepreneurs. So I think at a very early stage, valuations don't have much room to go down. Of course, there's less money around. It's a funding winter. So fewer companies get funded. But I don't think at the very early stage there's much pressure on valuations. At the later stage, there is as much pressure as the markets are experiencing. So if the markets are down 70%, 50%, like the biotech space, then later stage clinical companies would suffer exactly the same, or if not worse, because there is less appetite for risks. So it's a spectrum. At the early stage, not so much impact. At the later stage, a lot of impact. There is a flight to quality, and most people are preserving cash to fund their own portfolio because it's harder to raise outside money. So that's where we are. People are saying venture capitalists are becoming venture vulture capitalists. I don't think so, because that's not a sustainable model. Venture capitalists are partners. They share the risk and they try to reduce the risk as far as possible. Obviously, if there is less competition for that particular investment, you can get better terms. And today, because of a funding winter, VCs are trying to get more protection, like higher liquidation preference and other types of structures. But ultimately, a VC is in it with you. They take equity. It's not debt. So if the company dies, liquidation preference is useless. And if the company succeeds, they make 100x. So that formula is the same. So I think not very much change in the fundamentals of the VC's business model.
Okay, well, very good. Let's leave it like that for now. And let's thank Finian for joining us and your wonderful remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.